This morning, the beliefs you cling to are the chains that keep you ordinary. You wake up rehearsing limits, replaying doubts, feeding a mind trained by yesterday's failures. Flip the script. You program your mind first, and your life obeys. Thoughts become orders, orders become outcomes. Hill distilled this law from titans who built empires with invisible tools, definiteness of purpose, autosuggestion, relentless faith. So you will speak power like a hammer. You are calm, certain, and called. Your plan is precise. Your actions are inevitable, until your nervous system salutes. Say it now, every dawn, and watch the world kneel to the clarity you forged before breakfast. The night before, you sat in a room you recognized but could not claim. The walls held certificates, shelves stacked with books on discipline and desire, yet the silence between you and the life you wanted stretched wider than any ocean. You spoke a single sentence aloud, uncertain whether you believed it, whether it mattered, whether sound could shift anything at all. Then morning arrived. You rose not because an alarm demanded it, but because something in the muscle memory of your chest, the automatic firing of neurons conditioned over 7 consecutive dawns, pulled you upright before thought could interfere. The command you planted in darkness had taken root. This is not mysticism. This is the mechanical law, Hill documented after 2 decades inside the minds of Carnegie, Edison, Ford, men who discovered that the human nervous system does not distinguish between a vivid internal directive and an external fact. You program your mind first, your actions second, and the outcomes arrive as naturally as breath. You are about to receive the exact architecture that turns words into wiring. You will understand why every empire, every breakthrough, every ascent from obscurity to mastery begins in a private moment of spoken certainty. You will learn the ritual that encodes definiteness into the limbic system, so that hesitation becomes physically impossible. And before the sun sets on this 24-hour window, you will perform one single action that signals to your subconscious that the old rehearsal is over and a new order has begun. The metaphor is the forge. Thoughts are the raw iron. Repetition is the hammer. And the heat is the emotional charge you inject into every syllable. You are not hoping for change. You are commanding the circuitry beneath your conscious mind to execute a new program, and that circuitry obeys law, not luck. Most people fail because they treat affirmation like decoration. They whisper a pleasant phrase once, feel nothing shift, and conclude the method is soft. They do not understand that autosuggestion is a precision instrument, not a mantra for comfort. Hill studied Andrew Carnegie for 20 years and discovered that Carnegie did not hope for steel dominance. He declared it in private, visualized the outcome with such specificity that his body moved as if the future were already fact, and repeated the process until his nervous system could not conceive an alternative. This is not positive thinking. This is neurological enforcement. You take a sentence that describes the outcome you demand. You saturate it with emotional intensity. You repeat it until the repetition bypasses the conscious filter and reaches the subconscious control center. And then you act as if the outcome is foregone. The subconscious does not argue. It accepts the instruction and begins to route every micro-decision, every posture, every impulse toward the commanded reality. You must grasp the difference between a wish and a command. A wish is passive, vague, detached from consequence. A command is precise, immediate, and backed by the full authority of your attention. Hill's titans did not say, "I hope to be wealthy." They said, "I will accumulate $1 million by this date, and I will do so by providing this service, through these people, using these actions." The specificity is the signature of intent. When you speak your morning directive, you do not say, "I want to feel better." You say, "I am calm, certain, and called. My plan is precise. My actions are inevitable." The nervous system hears precision and begins to organize around it. Vagueness produces drift. Precision produces momentum. The reason most people remain ordinary is that they rehearse limitation before they rehearse power. They wake and immediately review yesterday's failures, today's anxieties, tomorrow's uncertainties. They speak to themselves in the tone of a critic, a coward, a defendant pleading for mercy. The subconscious listens to this rehearsal and accepts it as the operating system. If you spend the first 10 minutes of consciousness replaying doubt, your body will move through the day as if doubt is the truth. If you spend the first 10 minutes issuing commands backed by emotion and vision, your body will move as if those commands are law. The choice is mechanical. You are always programming. The only question is whether you program by default or by design. Hill called this principle autosuggestion, and he placed it third in his 13 laws because the first two, desire and definiteness, mean nothing without the mechanism to encode them into the nervous system. You can want a result with desperation. You can define it with obsessive clarity. But if you do not speak it, visualize it, and feel it until the feeling overrides the old pattern, the subconscious will continue running the script it has always run. Autosuggestion is the override command. It is the method by which you take a new instruction and stamp it so deeply into the lower brain that conscious resistance becomes irrelevant. You do not need to believe the new statement at first. You need only to repeat it with enough emotional charge that the subconscious begins to test whether the statement might be possible, then probable, then inevitable. Belief is the byproduct, not the prerequisite. Consider the man who built the modern assembly line. Henry Ford did not invent the automobile, but he commanded the world to accept his vision of mass production. Before the Model T became reality, Ford sat alone and visualized the factory, the sequence, the speed, the distribution. He spoke aloud the outcomes he demanded, not once, but daily, until his entire team moved in alignment with a vision that had not yet materialized. The repetition was not for others, it was for him. It was to train his own nervous system to see the impossible as mundane, the unprecedented as foregone. He did not wait for confidence. He manufactured it through disciplined repetition until his body moved as if the factory were already running. The subconscious does not require proof. It requires instruction delivered with authority and consistency. You will do the same. You will take the outcome you demand and translate it into a present tense declaration. Not future, not conditional. Present and absolute. I am calm, certain, and called. Not I will be calm or I hope to be certain. The tense matters because the subconscious interprets future tense statements as perpetual postponement. If you say, I will be successful, the subconscious hears. Success is always ahead, never now. If you say, I am successful, the subconscious begins to scan the environment for evidence that supports the claim, and it begins to suppress behaviors that contradict it. The shift from future to present is the shift from wish to command. You are not predicting, you are decreeing. Now you understand the architecture. The next question is frequency. How often must you issue the command before the subconscious accepts it as operating truth? Hill observed that repetition must be daily, ideally twice daily, at the threshold moments when the conscious mind is softest, immediately upon waking and just before sleep. These are the gates. In the first 15 minutes after you open your eyes, the brain is still in a liminal state. The alpha waves have not yet hardened into beta wave alertness, and the subconscious is still accessible. You do not need an hour. You need 5 minutes of spoken clarity, emotional intensity, and vivid visualization. If you issue the command in that window, the subconscious receives it without the interference of rational doubt. Then you repeat the process at night, before sleep, when the brain is descending back into theta and the conscious gatekeeper is stepping aside. These two windows are your leverage points. Miss them, and you are programming by accident. Use them, and you program by design. The emotional charge is non-negotiable. Words without emotion are inert. The subconscious ignores neutral information because neutral information does not signal importance. You must attach feeling to the command. If you say, I am certain, while feeling nothing, the subconscious files the statement as noise. If you say, I am certain, while summoning the sensation of certainty, the calm in your chest, the steadiness in your gaze, the relief of knowing the next step, the subconscious flags the statement as priority. Hill discovered that emotion is the carrier wave. It is the signal that tells the lower brain, this matters, encode this, act on this. So when you speak your morning directive, do not recite it like a grocery list. Speak it as if you are issuing an executive order to the most powerful force in your biology, because you are. Visualization amplifies the command. The subconscious thinks in images, not words. When you declare, my plan is precise, immediately see the plan, see the calendar, see the first action, see the outcome as if it is unfolding in real time. Hill observed that every Titan he studied used this technique. They did not merely think about their goals, they constructed mental movies in which they saw themselves living the outcome, feeling the emotions of success, experiencing the reality as if it had already occurred. The nervous system cannot distinguish between a richly imagined experience and a real one. The same neural pathways fire, the same chemistry releases. So you give the subconscious a movie, and the subconscious begins to move your body toward the scenes you have rehearsed. If you ignore this principle, you will continue to drift. You will wake without a script, and your mind will default to the script it has always run, the one written by fear, comparison, past failure, and external noise. You will spend your mornings reacting instead of commanding, and by noon, the day will own you. The cost of ignoring autosuggestion is not dramatic collapse. It is the quiet erosion of potential, the slow surrender to a life programmed by others, by accidents, by the inertia of yesterday's choices. You do not fall apart. You simply never rise. You remain in the room you recognize but cannot claim, surrounded by the evidence of effort but absent the force that turns effort into inevitability. But you are not here to drift. You are here because you sense that language, wielded correctly, is the hammer that shapes the invisible architecture of your life. The forge is ready. The raw material is your current belief system, those unconscious scripts that tell you what you can and cannot do, who you are and are not, what is possible and what is fantasy. Most of those scripts were installed without your consent. You absorbed them from parents, peers, failures, rejections, the ambient noise of a culture that rewards compliance and punishes audacity. Those scripts are not truth. They are programming, and programming can be overwritten. The method is simple. Identify the new instruction, encode it with emotion, repeat it at the threshold moments, visualize it until it feels real, and then act as if the outcome is already decided. The subconscious will comply. It has no choice. It is a mechanism, and mechanisms obey law. So you begin now. You identify the single most important outcome you demand in the next 90 days. Not a wish, not a hope, a demand. Then you compress that outcome into a present tense declaration of no more than 3 sentences. Specificity is the signal of seriousness. Do not say, I am successful. Say, I generate $10,000 in revenue by December 15th through these 3 actions, and I do so with calm certainty and relentless execution. The precision is the anchor. The subconscious knows when you are serious because serious intent is always specific. Vague intent is fantasy. Specific intent is command. Write the declaration. Read it aloud. Feel the words in your chest, not just your throat. Imagine the outcome as if it is happening now. See the bank balance. See the email confirmation. See yourself executing the final action that completes the chain. Do this for 5 minutes, then close your eyes and sit in the silence of knowing that the instruction has been issued. You do not need to force belief. You need only to issue the command and allow the subconscious to begin testing whether the command is possible. It will test. It will begin to notice opportunities you previously ignored, ideas you previously dismissed, actions you previously avoided. This is not magic. This is the reticular activating system responding to the new filter you have installed. You told it what to look for, and now it looks. Some will protest that affirmations feel false. They will say, "I cannot declare wealth when I am broke," or "I cannot claim certainty when I feel afraid." This objection misunderstands the purpose. You are not lying to yourself. You are issuing a command to the part of your mind that controls automatic behavior. The conscious mind may doubt. The conscious mind may resist. That is irrelevant. The subconscious does not care about your current state. It cares only about the instruction you repeat with emotional intensity. If you repeat the instruction often enough, with enough feeling, the subconscious will begin to align your actions, your posture, your decisions with the declared outcome. You will start to notice that you move differently, speak differently, choose differently. You did not force these changes. You simply programmed them, and the program runs beneath awareness. Others will say, "I do not have time for this." They will argue that mornings are chaotic, that 5 minutes is a luxury they cannot afford. This is the voice of the old program defending itself. The old program knows that if you install a new one, it will be overwritten. So it invents reasons to delay, to skip, to compromise. You must override this voice with the same mechanism you are learning to use for everything else: a command. The command is, "I control the first 5 minutes of my day, and I use them to program certainty, clarity, and inevitable action." You do not negotiate with the objection. You issue the command and move. The objection will fade because objections are not convictions, they are habits, and habits dissolve when a stronger pattern takes their place. Another objection is the belief that results should arrive immediately. You speak the command once, twice, a dozen times, and when the outcome does not materialize within a week, you conclude the method is broken. This is the impatience of the untrained mind. Hill discovered that autosuggestion requires minimum 30 days of daily repetition before the subconscious fully accepts the new instruction. The first week, you are merely introducing the command. The second week, you are beginning to encode it. The third week, the subconscious starts to test it. By the fourth week, if you have maintained emotional intensity and visualization, the new pattern begins to override the old one. You do not see the shift immediately because neurological rewiring is invisible. You see it in your actions. You notice that you no longer hesitate at the moment of decision. You notice that your body moves toward the outcome without conscious effort. You notice that the doubt which once paralyzed you now feels distant, like a voice from another room that no longer commands your attention. There is also the fear that this is merely repetition of empty words, that without external proof, the practice is self-delusion. This fear misses the point. The practice is not about convincing yourself of a fantasy. It is about installing a new operating system so that your automatic behaviors align with the outcome you demand. When you repeat, "I am calm, certain, and called," you are not pretending that chaos does not exist. You are training your nervous system to respond to chaos with calm instead of panic, with certainty instead of doubt, with the sense of being called to a purpose instead of drifting through reaction. The repetition creates the neural pathway. The pathway becomes automatic. The automatic response becomes your new default. This is not delusion. This is engineering. One final objection is the belief that this method works only for a certain type of person, the extrovert, the naturally confident, the already successful. This is false. Hill documented the principle precisely because it worked for ordinary people who were willing to apply it with discipline. You do not need charisma. You do not need a history of victory. You need only the willingness to speak a command, attach emotion to it, visualize it, and repeat it daily until the subconscious accepts it. The nervous system does not care about your personality type. It cares about the clarity and consistency of the instruction. If you deliver the instruction correctly, the system obeys. If you do not, it continues running the default script. The method is neutral. It works for anyone who uses it. Now you are ready for the ritual. This is not a metaphor. This is the exact sequence you will perform tonight, and again tomorrow morning, and every dawn and dusk for the next 90 days. The ritual is designed to bypass conscious resistance and speak directly to the subconscious control center. You will follow the sequence precisely because precision is the signature of intent, and intent is the only language the subconscious respects. Tonight, after the noise of the day has settled, you will find a space where you can sit without interruption. It does not need to be sacred. It needs to be private. Silence the devices. Close the door. Sit upright in a chair or on the floor, spine straight, hands resting on your thighs. The posture matters because the subconscious interprets slouching as submission and upright posture as command. You are about to issue an order, and orders are delivered from a position of authority. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply through your nose, filling your belly first, then your chest, then holding for a count of 4. Exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing every ounce of tension from your shoulders, your jaw, your fists. Repeat this breath 3 times. The breath is the bridge. It signals to the nervous system that you are shifting from reactive mode to command mode. Now speak your declaration aloud, not in your head, aloud. The subconscious responds more powerfully to sound because sound engages the auditory cortex, the motor cortex, and the emotional centers simultaneously. Your voice should be calm but firm, the tone you would use to give an instruction to someone you trust to execute it without question. Say, I am calm, certain, and called. My plan is precise, my actions are inevitable. Pause after each sentence, let the words settle. Feel them in your chest, not just your throat. As you speak, see the outcome. See yourself moving through the day with calm, making decisions with certainty, acting on the plan without hesitation. See the final result as if it has already occurred. The image should be vivid enough that you can describe the details, the colors, the sounds, the sensations. This vividness is the emotional charge. It tells the subconscious, this is real, prioritize this. Repeat the declaration 3 times, each time increasing the emotional intensity. The first repetition is the introduction. The second is the emphasis. The third is the command. By the third repetition, you should feel the words not as abstract ideas, but as physical sensations, calm as a loosening in your chest, certainty as a steadiness in your gaze, inevitability as a warmth spreading through your limbs. If you do not feel this, you are reciting, not commanding. Stop, breathe, begin again. The feeling is the signal. Without the feeling, the subconscious ignores the instruction. After the third repetition, sit in silence for 60 seconds. Do not think, do not plan. Simply sit in the awareness that the command has been issued and the subconscious is now processing it. You may notice resistance, a voice that says, this is silly, or this will not work, or you are not this person. Do not argue with the voice. Acknowledge it as the old program defending itself, then return your attention to the breath. The resistance is proof that you are installing something new. If there were no resistance, there would be no change. The resistance fades as the new program gains strength. In the morning, within 15 minutes of waking, before you check your phone, before you speak to anyone, before you allow the external world to program your attention, you will repeat the ritual. Same posture, same breath, same declaration, same visualization, same emotional charge, same silence. The morning session is the most critical because the brain is still in the liminal state between sleep and full alertness. The gatekeeper is weak. The subconscious is accessible. If you deliver the command in this window, it enters without resistance. By the time the day begins, the program is running. You will move differently. You will choose differently. You will not notice the shift consciously because the shift is happening below awareness. You will only notice the results, the absence of hesitation, the presence of clarity, the automatic execution of the actions that move you toward the declared outcome. As you perform the ritual each morning and night, you will also speak these 11 lines to yourself, looking into a mirror if possible, though the mirror is optional. The lines are not poetry. They are identity commands. You will say them in the first person, present tense, with the same calm authority you use for the main declaration. Speak them slowly. Feel each one. Do not rush. Rushing is the signal of doubt. Calm repetition is the signal of certainty. I am the architect of my attention. I choose what enters and what I ignore. I do not wait for permission to act. I do not rehearse failure before breakfast. My word is my law, and I enforce it without compromise. I see the outcome before the action, and the action follows like breath. I do not hope for discipline. I command it, and my body obeys. Fear is noise. I hear it and move anyway. I am calm when others panic, because I have programmed calm as my default. My plan is not a wish. It is an instruction I have encoded into my nervous system. I am inevitable because I have decided to be, and the decision is final. These 11 lines are the wiring. You do not need to memorize them on the first day. Read them, speak them, feel them. Over the course of 30 days, they will become automatic. By day 60, you will not need to read them because they will have become the lens through which you see yourself. By day 90, they will not be affirmations, they will be observations of the person you have become. This is not self-help. This is self-programming, and the program runs on repetition, emotion, and specificity. Now we layer in the weekly audit. Every Sunday evening, you will sit with a notebook and ask yourself 4 questions. Do not skip this. The audit is the mechanism that transforms repetition into observable progress. It is the moment when you hold yourself accountable not to external metrics, but to the internal command you issued. The questions are simple, and the answers must be honest. Question 1. Did I speak my declaration every morning and every night this week without exception? If the answer is no, you identify which days you missed and why. The reason is usually one of 3. You forgot, you prioritized something else, or you doubted the value. All 3 reasons are symptoms of the old program reasserting itself. You do not punish yourself. You simply note the pattern and decide whether you are serious about the outcome. If you are serious, you do not miss again. Seriousness is measured by consistency, not intensity. Question 2. On the days I performed the ritual, did I feel the emotional charge, or was I merely reciting words? This question separates theater from transformation. If you recited without feeling, the subconscious did not receive the full instruction. You must increase the emotional intensity. Imagine the outcome more vividly. Add sensory detail. See the colors. Hear the sounds. Feel the sensations. The subconscious responds to vivid emotion the way muscle responds to weight. No load, no growth. Question 3. What actions did I take this week that align with the declared outcome, and what actions contradicted it? This is the behavioral audit. You are looking for evidence that the program is running. Did you make a decision with less hesitation than last week? Did you choose the harder action over the easier one? Did you notice yourself moving toward the outcome without conscious effort? If yes, the program is encoding. If no, the program is still competing with the old pattern, and you need to increase the frequency or intensity of the ritual. Question 4. What will I change next week to deepen the encoding? This is the refinement question. Maybe you need to add more sensory detail to your visualization. Maybe you need to speak the declaration more slowly. Maybe you need to perform the ritual in a different location to eliminate distractions. The audit is not about judgment. It is about iteration. You are engineering a new operating system, and engineering requires continuous testing and adjustment. This weekly audit takes 10 minutes. It is the difference between repetition that compounds and repetition that stagnates. Hill observed that the titans who succeeded with autosuggestion were also ruthless self-auditors. They did not assume the method was working. They measured, they adjusted, they refined, and because they measured, they could see the small shifts that accumulate into transformation. You will do the same. Every Sunday, you audit. Every Monday, you refine. Over 90 days, the refinement becomes automatic, and the person who began the process is unrecognizable to the person who completes it. Now we address the system of possession. You do not merely repeat words. You transform hours into assets. You take the time you would otherwise spend scrolling, worrying, rehearsing doubt, and you convert it into the raw material of a new identity. The system is this. Every morning, the 5 minutes you spend issuing the command becomes the foundation for every decision you make that day. You do not need to think about the command consciously after the ritual. It is running in the background, filtering your choices, shaping your responses, redirecting your attention. By the end of the week, you have invested 35 minutes of focused programming. Those 35 minutes have influenced hundreds of micro decisions: what you said yes to, what you said no to, how you responded to frustration, whether you delayed action or moved immediately. Over the course of a month, you have invested 140 minutes. Those minutes have reprogrammed your automatic behaviors. You hesitate less. You choose clarity over comfort. You act on the first signal instead of waiting for the fourth. By the end of 90 days, you have invested 420 minutes, 7 hours of focused auto-suggestion. 7 hours does not sound significant until you realize that 7 hours of precise, emotionally charged programming is more powerful than 700 hours of undirected effort. The Titans Hill studied did not work harder than everyone else. They worked with more precision. They knew that 1 hour of directed thought produces more than 10 hours of scattered action. You are learning the same principle. The ritual is short. The impact is vast. The system is invisible. The results are undeniable. The mechanism behind this system is neural plasticity. The brain rewires itself based on repeated patterns. Every time you issue the command with emotional intensity, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with that command. Every time you visualize the outcome, you activate the same brain regions that would activate if you were living the outcome. Over time, the pathway becomes so strong that the behavior becomes automatic. You do not need to think about calm. You are calm. You do not need to remember certainty. You embody it. The subconscious has accepted the instruction, and now it executes without requiring conscious oversight. This is possession. You possess the outcome because you have trained your nervous system to default to it. The transformation you are engineering is not visible in the first week. You will not wake on day 8 and find that the world has rearranged itself around your declaration. What you will notice is smaller, quieter, and more profound. You will notice that the moment between stimulus and response has widened. Someone criticizes your work, and instead of the immediate contraction in your chest, the reflexive defense, the spiral into doubt, you pause. The pause is new. It is not long, maybe 2 seconds, but in that pause, you choose. You choose the response that aligns with the person you declared yourself to be, not the person yesterday's programming would have made you. This is the first evidence. The pause is the crack in the old architecture, and through that crack, the new program begins to run. By the second week, the pause lengthens. You catch yourself mid-sentence, mid-thought, mid-action, and you recognize that you are about to default to the old pattern. But now you have installed an override. You stop, you breathe, you ask, is this the choice of someone who is calm, certain, and called? If the answer is no, you choose differently. This is not willpower. Willpower is finite, effortful, exhausting. This is automation. You program the question into your subconscious through repetition, and now the question arises automatically. You do not force the better choice. The better choice presents itself, and you take it because it feels like the path of least resistance. The old choice, the reactive choice, now feels foreign, like clothing that no longer fits. By the third week, people around you begin to notice. They do not know what has changed, but they sense it. You speak with less hesitation. You make decisions faster. You stop apologizing for choices that do not require apology. They may comment, "You seem different," or "What happened?" And you will not have a simple answer because the change is not external. It is internal, invisible, encoded. You did not change your circumstances. You changed the operating system, and the operating system is now changing your circumstances. The subconscious is scanning for opportunities that match the declared outcome. It is filtering out distractions that contradict it. It is moving your body, your attention, your energy toward the precise result you commanded, and it is doing so without your conscious effort. By the fourth week, the ritual is no longer a discipline. It is a need. You do not perform it because you should. You perform it because skipping it feels like skipping a meal. Your nervous system has come to depend on the morning command the way it depends on oxygen. The command is the anchor. It is the signal that you are in control, that the day will unfold according to your design, not according to the chaos of external events. On the rare morning when circumstances force you to skip the ritual, you feel the absence immediately. The day feels reactive, scattered, vulnerable. This is not weakness. This is proof that the program is running. You have installed a new default, and your system protests when the default is interrupted. Hill observed this pattern in every individual who successfully applied autosuggestion. The first month is installation. The second month is reinforcement. The third month is automation. By day 90, the person who began the process and the person who completes it are not the same. The latter does not need to remind themselves to be calm. Calm is the baseline. They do not need to rehearse certainty. Certainty is the automatic response to uncertainty. They do not need to force action. Action is the natural consequence of clarity. The 90-day cycle is not arbitrary. It is the minimum time required for a new neural pathway to become dominant, for the subconscious to stop testing the command and start executing it as permanent instruction. But the 90 days are not passive. Each day, you are making a choice. The choice is whether to continue programming or to surrender back to default. The old program does not disappear. It weakens, but it does not vanish. It waits for the moment when you stop issuing the command, when you skip a morning, when you allow doubt to creep back in. The moment you stop programming, the old program begins to reassert itself. This is why the ritual is daily. This is why the emotion is non-negotiable. This is why the visualization must remain vivid. You are not trying to reach a finish line after which you can stop. You are installing a new way of being, and that way of being requires maintenance. The Titans Hill studied did not stop after 90 days. They continued the practice for years, for decades, because they understood that the moment they stopped commanding their mind would default to the commands of the environment, of fear, of the accumulated noise of other people's doubts. So you commit to the cycle. 30 days to install, 60 days to reinforce, 90 days to automate. And then you continue, not because you lack discipline, but because the ritual has become the source of your power. It is the 5 minutes each morning and night when you step out of reaction and into command. It is the moment when you remind your nervous system who is in charge. It is the practice that turns ordinary hours into the architecture of an extraordinary life. Now, we examine the mechanism more closely. The subconscious mind operates on images, emotions, and repetition. It does not process abstract concepts. When you say, "I am successful," the subconscious does not understand success as an idea. It needs to see success, feel success, experience success in vivid detail. So you must translate the abstraction into sensation. What does success look like? You see the office, the contract, the handshake, the number on the screen. What does it feel like? You feel the relief, the pride, the calm certainty that you delivered what you promised. What does it sound like? You hear the confirmation, the applause, the silence of completed work. The more specific the image, the more powerful the encoding. The subconscious cannot move toward a vague idea. It moves toward a vivid experience. This is why most affirmations fail. They are too abstract, too general, too disconnected from sensory reality. I am abundant means nothing to the subconscious unless you attach abundance to an image. What does abundance look like in your life? Is it the absence of financial anxiety? Is it the ability to say yes to an opportunity without checking your account first? Is it the experience of giving without counting the cost? Define it, see it, feel it, then speak it, and the subconscious will begin to organize your behavior around that specific image. Hill discovered that the most effective autosuggestion statements followed a precise formula: present tense, first person, specific outcome, emotional trigger. I possess $10,000 by this date, acquired through this method, and I feel calm and certain as I execute the plan. The statement is not a wish. It is a declaration of present reality as if the outcome has already occurred. The subconscious does not distinguish between a vividly imagined future and a remembered past. Both trigger the same neural activity. So, you imagine the future with such specificity that your brain begins to treat it as memory, and memory drives behavior more powerfully than hope ever could. The emotional trigger is the accelerant. Without emotion, the statement is inert. With emotion, it becomes a command. The emotion does not need to be ecstatic, it needs to be genuine. If you declare financial abundance, the emotion might be relief, the relief of no longer worrying about bills, of no longer calculating every purchase, of no longer deferring the life you want to live. Feel the relief as you speak the statement. Let it fill your chest. Let it soften your shoulders. The subconscious flags relief as important, and it begins to scan for actions that produce relief. Over time, those actions accumulate into the outcome you declared. Some will ask, what if I declare an outcome and it does not arrive? This question reveals a misunderstanding of the method. Autosuggestion does not guarantee a specific external result. It guarantees that your internal state and your automatic behaviors will align with the declared outcome. The external result depends on 1,000 variables, many of which are beyond your control. But your response to those variables, your ability to recognize opportunity, your willingness to act when action is required, your capacity to persist when persistence is tested, these are entirely within your control, and these are what autosuggestion programs. You declare the outcome, and the subconscious begins to move you toward it. Whether the outcome arrives in the exact form you envisioned or in a form you did not anticipate is irrelevant. What matters is that you are no longer passive. You are no longer waiting for permission, for luck, for conditions to improve. You are moving, and movement produces results that stillness never could. Another question: what if I declare an outcome that is unrealistic? This question assumes you know what is realistic, and you do not. Hill documented dozens of cases where individuals declared outcomes that seemed absurd: wealth from poverty, influence from obscurity, mastery from incompetence, and achieved them because they programmed their subconscious to see the outcome as inevitable. The subconscious does not evaluate probability. It evaluates instruction. If you instruct it with clarity, emotion, and repetition, it will organize your behavior around that instruction regardless of how improbable the outcome appears to the conscious mind. The only unrealistic outcome is the one you refuse to declare, because an undeclared outcome is an outcome the subconscious will never pursue. Now we address the role of faith. Hill placed faith as the third pillar, immediately after desire and definiteness, because faith is the state of mind in which the subconscious operates most effectively. But faith, in Hill's framework, is not religious belief. It is the expectation of positive outcome based on the consistent application of law. You have faith that gravity will pull a dropped object to the ground, not because you hope it will, but because you have seen the law operate without exception. Autosuggestion is a law of the same order. If you apply it correctly, daily repetition, emotional charge, vivid visualization, the subconscious will respond. The response is not a miracle. It is mechanics. Faith, then, is the calm certainty that the mechanics will produce the result, and that certainty is built through experience. You do not start with faith. You start with the discipline to perform the ritual even when you doubt. Over time, you see the small shifts. The shifts build confidence. Confidence builds faith. Faith becomes the operating assumption, and the operating assumption drives behavior that produces results which reinforce the faith. The cycle is self-sustaining once it begins. But to begin, you must act without faith. You must issue the command before you believe it will work. This is the test. Most people wait for belief before they act. They say, "Show me it works, and then I will do it." This is backward. You do it, and the doing produces the evidence that generates belief. Hill called this acting on faith, but it is more accurate to call it acting before faith. You do not need to believe the command will work. You need only to issue it with precision and emotion. Then observe what happens. If you observe with honesty, you will see the shifts. The shifts are small, at first a pause where there was reaction, a choice where there was default, a moment of calm where there was chaos, but the shifts accumulate, and accumulation produces transformation. The Titans Hill studied understood this principle. They did not wait for confidence before they launched the enterprise. They declared the outcome, programmed the belief, and then acted as if the outcome were certain. The certainty was not based on evidence. It was based on the disciplined application of autosuggestion. They knew that if they repeated the command, visualized the outcome, and moved in alignment with the declared result, the subconscious would organize resources, ideas, and opportunities in ways the conscious mind could not predict. They had faith not in magic, but in mechanism. They trusted the law, and the law rewarded the trust. You will do the same. You will issue the command before you believe it. You will repeat it daily, attach emotion to it, visualize it until it feels real, and then you will act as if the outcome is inevitable. You will not wait for external confirmation. You will move, and the movement will produce the confirmation. This is the inversion most people miss. They think belief produces action. In truth, disciplined action produces evidence, and evidence produces belief. You start with the action, the ritual, the declaration, the visualization, and belief follows. Now we turn to the environment. The subconscious is influenced not only by your internal commands, but by the external signals it receives throughout the day. If you issue a powerful command in the morning, then spend the next 12 hours consuming content that contradicts it, news that reinforces scarcity, conversations that normalize mediocrity, media that glorifies victimhood, the subconscious receives conflicting instructions. It does not know which to follow, so it defaults to the stronger signal, which is usually the one repeated most often. If you hear doubt 10 times for every one time you declare certainty, doubt becomes the dominant program. This is why environmental design is non-negotiable. You must curate what enters your attention with the same rigor you use to curate the command you issue. Hill observed that every Titan he studied controlled their environment ruthlessly. They chose their associations carefully. They avoided chronic complainers, pessimists, and critics. They consumed content that reinforced the outcomes they declared. They surrounded themselves with people who had already achieved what they were pursuing or who were moving in the same direction. This was not elitism. This was self-preservation. They knew that the subconscious absorbs the dominant signals in the environment, and they refused to allow toxic signals to corrupt the program they were installing. You must apply the same standard. Audit your environment. Who are you spending time with? What are they saying about possibility, about effort, about success? If their default conversation is complaint, cynicism, or blame, you are absorbing those signals. The subconscious does not distinguish between your voice and the voices around you. It hears repetition and begins to encode. If the people around you repeat limitation, your subconscious encodes limitation. If they repeat possibility, your subconscious encodes possibility. You cannot control what others believe, but you can control how much access they have to your attention. The same applies to media. What are you reading, watching, listening to in the hours outside the ritual? Is it content that reinforces the identity you are programming, or content that contradicts it? If you declare certainty in the morning, then spend the afternoon consuming news designed to provoke anxiety, you are programming anxiety. If you declare abundance, then spend the evening watching content that glorifies scarcity. You are programming scarcity. The solution is not to avoid all media. It is to choose media that aligns with the command you issued. Read biographies of people who achieved what you are pursuing. Listen to interviews with individuals who embody the traits you are encoding. Watch content that demonstrates the principles you are applying. The repetition of aligned signals strengthens the program. The repetition of conflicting signals weakens it. Hill was explicit about this. He called it the principle of organized knowledge. You must organize the information entering your mind the way you would organize the inputs to a machine. Garbage in, garbage out. Precision in, precision out. The subconscious is a machine of unmatched power, but it is not discerning. It does not filter for quality. It simply encodes what is repeated. So, you become the filter. You decide what repeats. You choose the conversations, the content, the environments that reinforce the program you are installing, and you eliminate or minimize exposure to everything else. This does not mean you live in a bubble. It means you protect the program during the installation phase. For the first 90 days, you are deliberate about what you allow into your attention. After 90 days, the program is strong enough to withstand occasional exposure to conflicting signals. But during installation, you are ruthless. You say no to invitations that will drain your energy. You skip the social media scroll that triggers comparison. You avoid the conversation that devolves into complaint. You do this not because you are fragile, but because you are serious. Seriousness is measured by what you are willing to sacrifice. And you are willing to sacrifice distraction, noise, and the comfort of blending in with the default crowd. The environment extends to your physical space. Where do you perform the ritual? Is it a space that signals command, or a space cluttered with the debris of yesterday's habits? The space does not need to be large or expensive. It needs to be intentional. Clear a corner, place a chair, remove distractions. When you enter that space, your nervous system should recognize it as the place where the command is issued. Over time, the space becomes an anchor. Simply sitting in that chair triggers the state of mind associated with the ritual. This is classical conditioning. You pair the space with the practice, and the space begins to evoke the practice automatically. Athletes use this principle when they create pre-performance routines. Musicians use it when they warm up in the same sequence before every performance. You are doing the same. You are creating a trigger that tells your nervous system, we are now in command mode. Now we layer in accountability. The ritual is private, but the outcomes are public. You will notice that as the program encodes, your external results begin to shift. You make a sale you were not expecting. You receive an opportunity you did not apply for. You solve a problem that had paralyzed you for months. These are not coincidences. These are the byproducts of aligned action. And aligned action is the byproduct of a programmed subconscious. But you must track these outcomes, because tracking builds faith, and faith accelerates encoding. Every Sunday, in addition to the 4 audit questions, you will write down 3 observable outcomes from the past week that align with your declared result. They do not need to be dramatic. A moment of calm in a situation that would have previously triggered anxiety is an outcome. A decision made without hesitation is an outcome. A conversation where you spoke with clarity instead of apology is an outcome. Write them down. Over the course of 90 days, you will accumulate 270 observations, 270 pieces of evidence that the program is working. This evidence is not for anyone else. It is for you. It is the data that converts doubt into certainty, and certainty is the fuel that sustains the ritual when motivation fades. Motivation will fade. Motivation is emotional, and emotion is volatile. Some mornings, you will not feel like performing the ritual. You will wake tired, distracted, or discouraged. On those mornings, you do not rely on motivation, you rely on commitment. Commitment is the decision made once, executed daily, regardless of feeling. You committed to 90 days. The commitment does not renegotiate based on mood. You perform the ritual whether you feel like it or not, and you perform it with the same precision, the same emotion, the same visualization. On the mornings when you least feel like doing it, the ritual matters most, because those are the mornings when the old program is testing whether you are serious. If you skip, the old program wins. If you perform, the new program strengthens. The choice is binary. There is no neutral. Every morning is either reinforcement or regression. Hill observed that the individuals who succeeded with autosuggestion shared one trait. They continued the practice on the days when it felt pointless. They did not wait for inspiration. They did not need to see immediate results. They trusted the law, and they executed the ritual with the same consistency they brushed their teeth. The ritual became non-negotiable, and because it was non-negotiable, it compounded. Small daily deposits into the subconscious account accumulated into a balance that produced returns they could not have predicted. The same will be true for you. The days when the ritual feels mechanical, boring, or futile are the days when you are building the deepest reserves of certainty. You are proving to your subconscious that the command is not subject to mood, to circumstance, to external feedback. The command is law, and law does not bend. Now we arrive at the closing architecture. You have the method, you have the ritual, you have the 90-day cycle. The question is whether you will execute, and execution begins with a vow. This vow is not made to an external authority. It is made to the part of you that has been waiting for permission to rise. You will speak it aloud tonight, after you perform the ritual for the first time. You will say it with the same calm authority you use for the declaration, and you will mean every word. I hereby claim full ownership of my mind. I will no longer rehearse limitation, doubt, or the opinions of those who settled. I will program certainty every morning and night for 90 consecutive days without exception. I will attach emotion to the command, visualize the outcome until it feels real, and act as if the result is already decided. I will audit my progress every Sunday. I will protect the program by controlling my environment, my associations, and the content I consume. I will not wait for belief before I act. I will act, and belief will follow. I will not stop on the days when motivation fades. I will execute regardless of feeling, because commitment is law, and law does not bend. I accept that the first 30 days are installation, the second 30 are reinforcement, and the third 30 are automation. I accept that the old program will resist, and I will override it with repetition, emotion, and precision. I accept that transformation is invisible until it is undeniable, and I will trust the process even when I cannot see the shift. This is my vow, and I enforce it without compromise. Speak that vow tonight. Feel the weight of it. This is not a wish. This is a contract between you and the most powerful force in your biology, and the contract is binding. Now the final command. Within the next 24 hours, you will perform one single action that signals to your subconscious that the old rehearsal is finished. The action must be concrete, immediate, and aligned with the outcome you declared. If you declared financial certainty, the action is transferring $10 into a separate account labeled for your goal. If you declared calm, the action is deleting one app that triggers reactivity. If you declared clarity, the action is writing the first sentence of the plan you have delayed. The action does not need to be large. It needs to be definitive. It is the first brick in the new architecture, and the subconscious will recognize it as proof that you are serious. Do not wait for the perfect action. Do not overthink. Choose one move that aligns with the declared outcome and execute it before the sun sets tomorrow. The execution is the signal. It tells the subconscious, we are no longer theorizing, we are building. And once the first brick is laid, the second becomes easier, the third inevitable. The image you carry forward is this: a hammer striking iron in the forge, each strike deliberate, each strike transforming raw material into precision, each strike issued with calm certainty. You are the hammer. Your words are the strikes. The iron is the shapeless belief system you inherited. The forge is the daily ritual, and the blade you are forging is a life that obeys your command, not the command of accident, fear, or the inertia of yesterday. You begin tonight, you continue tomorrow. You do not stop until the 90 days are complete, and then you do not stop because the ritual has become the source of your power. This is not theory, this is law. You program your mind first, and your life obeys. The forge is lit, the iron is ready, the hammer is in your hand. Strike now.